All right. So before we start, I want to talk about a very personal story. I grew up in India, in Ahmedabad. This is the story of my first car. I was always into cars. My dream, when I was a young child, was to have a Lamborghini. And on the eve of my birthday, my dad brought this fancy box, gift wrap, and I couldn't wait to turn out the gift wrapper. There it was, the red Lamborghini with the remote control, as you can see. I was super excited. I was very overjoyed with enthusiasm until I found out that for it to work, for the remote control to work, I needed batteries. The car, sure enough, did not come with batteries, and I couldn't, my 10-year-old self could not possibly fathom the motivations of car manufacturers or even my parents who didn't think to get batteries for the car. So my joy factor, which was like all the way at an all-time high, quickly turned down to despair because I had this car, I was staring at me, I was staring at it, and I couldn't take it out for a spin just because we didn't have batteries. The reason I talk about this in most of the conversations about friction was very truly, this was my first conscious interaction with friction. Why reduce friction is very straightforward. We'll talk about it. Friction turns delight into disappointment. There's no doubt about that. There is so much effort that is spent in creating this task where potential friction points like these may completely nullify or even have a net negative impact of all the effort. So as product builders, it's our duty to make sure that the friction, we make a conscious effort to anticipate and avoid friction.
The objective here was to get you the car. That was your delight. Like the objective was to get the car. Like the batteries, I feel, are an add-on to that, which continue your journey of delight. But the main objective was to get the car, and that was fulfilled. So can you really point out that the missing of the battery was a friction point or a lack of friction?
I think that's a very interesting point, and that's a common, I won't say mistake, but it's a common behavior of many product builders. I see that the objective is not to take the user from point A to point B. The objective is to fulfill the user's desires. Things that tend to cause friction in consumer products are three. There's avoidable effort. There's just plain right avoidable effort that the product builders could have avoided. The second is unnatural context switching. Oftentimes, the consumer is trying to do, a user is trying to do one task, trying to buy something, and we ask for address or ask for something random that was orthogonal to the primary task at the time. And lastly, the count and complexity of decision. So the first example I want to show is about music. In the early 2000s to mid 2000s, there's a tectonic shift in the music listening trend, which was essentially caused by iPod and other MP3 players, where customers' consumption of music through physical media, which is CDs and cassettes and then CDs, started declining because people wanted to have more access to a lot of MP3s on their iPod. So late 2000s, one trend we saw with music was the first thing customers did after buying a CD, or at least on Amazon, was to take the CD, put it in their machine, in their computer, and rip it off, so that they can take the songs from that CD on their iPod or on their MP3 player of choice and take it with them on their run or on their workouts and so on. So we thought, hey, this pretty much almost 95% of the customers were doing that, and we had the opportunity to really anticipate or observe that friction point and see if we can do something to avoid that. So we basically did very simple thing. We just mimicked what the customers were doing and just did it for them. So we launched this thing called auto rip. So rather than requiring the customer to rip the CD and then do it, we said, hey, if you buy a CD from Amazon or a vinyl from Amazon, then we'll just rip it, and before the CD arrives in mail, all the digital versions of the MP3 versions of the songs will be automatically in your library, in your music library. So anticipate and avoid context switching. So we'll talk about three mundane tasks. Tasks are tasks are watching a movie or TV show. Let's just talk about two, and then I'll talk about audiobooks as well. But watching a movie or a TV show and reading a book. What if I could, rather than having me to take out my phone or my app and search for that show, what if we could just tell the customer at that time who's on the screen at that time? And what if we could, if it's a TV, we could ask the customer to press a button on the remote, or there's a second screen, they can press press the app, or if they're watching it on an iPad or a tablet, they can just touch the screen. While reading a book, oftentimes, when I was preparing for all these standardized tests, you'll have to have sometimes you have to have a dictionary or some sort of a way to really, or Wikipedia in some technical books to find out, hey, what's this new term? What if we avoid the need to do that? So in Kindle, you can just highlight a specific word or text, piece of text or phrase, and it'll tell you the meaning. If it's a phrase, then it'll tell you information from Wikipedia. So just anticipate what might a customer want to do and avoid the need to do that. All right. So last point, as I said, avoidable friction, context switching, and the last is keeping the number of decisions few and simple. Now this is a grocery app for Amazon called Amazon Fresh. This is the simplest one to do, is just take the number of decisions that a customer needs to make, remove 1, 2, 3, n decisions, as many as you can, and there it is. The app is simpler.